Jack Elam was born as William Scott Elam on November 13, 1920, in Ashland, Arizona. This was a small town built around the railroad, with tough, rocky land all around it. The kind of place that matched the rough characters Jack would later play in movies. When Jack was just a little kid, his father passed away. This meant his mother had to raise him mostly by herself. Growing up with these hard times taught Jack to be tough and independent. These qualities would shape who he became as a person and as an actor. When Jack was only 3 years old, something bad happened. He hurt his left eye in an accident while playing. The injury was serious and left his eye looking crooked forever. Later on, this unusual feature would become the thing people remembered most about him. Funny enough, it actually helped make him famous in Hollywood. Back in those days, movie stars were supposed to be good-looking and clean-cut. Jack's appearance was totally different from that. Instead of letting this hold him back, he decided to use it to his advantage. What could have been a problem became the thing that made him special on screen. Before Jack became an actor, his life was completely different from show business. He went to school to study accounting and worked as a bookkeeper, keeping track of money and numbers. He even had a job at the Standard Oil Company. When World War II started, he joined the United States Navy and served his country. The discipline he learned and the real-life experiences he had during the war would later help him act in a way that felt real and believable. Jack didn't dream of being an actor when he was young. He sort of stumbled into it by chance, but it turned out to be exactly what he was meant to do. Jack Elam started working in movies in the late 1940s. At first, he got tiny parts where his name didn't even appear in the credits. He was just a face in the background. But his unusual looks quickly got noticed by the people who chose actors for movies. They were looking for people who could play bad guys, drifters, criminals, and characters who weren't clearly good or bad. During this time, westerns and crime movies were super popular. Jack found lots of work playing men who broke the law or at least didn't follow society's rules. His big break came in movies like Shay Said No from 1949 and Rawhide Deed from 1951. Even though he only appeared for short moments, his strange stare and wild energy made people notice him. Unlike many actors who played small parts and just blended into the background, Jack had a way of grabbing your attention. Movie watchers might forget the hero's name, but they always remembered the guy with the crooked eye who looked like he might do something crazy at any second. The 1950s and 1960s were Jack Elam's best years, especially when it came to Western movies. Westerns needed to feel real, and Jack was perfect at making them feel that way. He didn't play fancy, romantic bad guys. His characters were often dirty, scared, mean, or desperate men who had been shaped by living in tough places and having tough lives. Jack appeared in tons of Western movies and TV shows, including Gunsmoke, Bonanza, The Rifleman, Have Gun, Will Travel, and Rawhide. Every time he showed up, it reminded everyone that he was one of Hollywood's best actors for playing villains. But there was something interesting about Jack's performances. Even when playing scary characters, he often made them feel human. He made it seem like his characters were hurt by life just as much as they hurt others. One of his most famous performances was in Sergio Leone's Once Upon a Time in the West from 1968. He acted alongside big stars like Charles Bronson and Henry Fonda. Even though his part was small, people never forgot it. This showed Jack's amazing talent for making a huge impact even when he wasn't on screen for very long. His acting added to the movie's feeling of danger and moral confusion, which was what Leone's new style of westerns was all about. While Jack Elam was famous for playing villains, he could do more than just one type of role. As he got older, directors started to see that he was also really funny. Jack had perfect timing for jokes and wasn't afraid to make fun of himself. These qualities let him easily switch to playing funny characters. Movies like Support Your Local Sheriff from 1969 and Support Your Local Gunfighter from 1971 showed off Jack's comedy skills. By making his scary features seem silly and over the top, he became someone people laughed at instead of being afraid of. This change proved he could play many different types of characters and that he understood what audiences wanted to see. Jack Elam's personal life wasn't talked about as much as his famous movie roles, but it was filled with deep love, sadness, and strength. These qualities quietly shaped who he was behind those famously crooked eyes. His 2 marriages, with tragedy between them and new hope after, give us a peek into Jack's private world and the feelings that lived alongside his long Hollywood career. Jack's first marriage was to Jean Louise Hadgert. They got married in 1937, long before he became a face everyone knew in American movies. Back then, Jack was still figuring out who he was as a grown-up, working different jobs and dealing with uncertain times shaped by the leftover problems from the Great Depression. Their marriage started way before fame came into his life. This suggests they were together because they cared about each other and helped each other get through hard times, not because of celebrity or big dreams. Jean was there with Jack during his early years when he was still far away from playing the tough outlaws and weird villains that would later make him famous. For almost 24 years, Jean Louise Hadgert was Jack's wife and partner in life. This long marriage covered the most important changing period of his life, from struggling and being unknown to becoming professionally recognized. As Jack slowly started getting steady work in Hollywood, especially in westerns and movies with strong characters, Jean was always there behind the scenes, giving him stability and emotional support. In an industry where relationships often fall apart quickly and romances don't last, their marriage lasting for decades showed quiet loyalty and lasting love. While Jack created a screen image that often seemed threatening, unpredictable, or comically strange, his home life during these years seems to have been much more normal and settled. That feeling of stability ended in a heartbreaking way on January 24, 1961, when Jean Louise Hadgert died from colon cancer. Her death caused a deep emotional break in Jack's life. After more than 20 years together, losing his wife wasn't just losing a partner. It was losing a shared history that went all the way back to when he was a young adult. At this time in his life, Jack was already well known as a character actor, but being successful in his job didn't protect him from personal sadness. Jean's death closed a long chapter of steadiness and companionship, leaving Jack to face what came next by himself after almost 25 years of marriage. Surprisingly, and maybe meaningfully, Jack didn't stay alone for long. 7 months later, in August 1961, he married Margaret M. Jennison. The pretty short time between Jean's death and his second marriage suggests not that he didn't care about his loss, but rather that he really needed connection and emotional partnership. For a man who had spent most of his adult life as a husband, being alone may have felt weird or too hard to handle. His choice to get married again so quickly shows he wanted to keep that feeling of companionship and emotional support after such a big upset in his life. Margaret M. Jennison became Jack's second wife at a time when his career was doing really well. The 1960s and 1970s would turn out to be some of the busiest and best years of his professional life. Jack appeared in a constant flow of movies and TV shows, often stealing attention in scenes with his unique presence and quirky charm. So Margaret came into his life during a time when he was visible and things were going well, supporting him as he dealt with the demands of being famous, getting older, and working in an entertainment industry that kept changing. While less is known publicly about their private relationship, the marriage lasted for the rest of Jack's life, which suggests they had a bond that gave him lasting comfort and stability. For many years, Jack Elam stayed mostly quiet about his relationship with James Garner, even while fans and people who study Hollywood history wondered about the connection between two of Hollywood's most recognizable faces. Jack, famous for his unforgettable crooked eye, scratchy voice, and his skill at playing sinister Western villains, was never someone who tried to get attention when he wasn't working. But late in his life, he finally decided to talk openly about Garner. He didn't speak with anger or show-off attitude, but with surprising warmth, honesty, and respect. Jack admitted that James Garner was a very different kind of leading man than himself. "Jimmy had that rare ease about him," Jack once said. "He could walk into a room, smile that half-smile of his, and everyone trusted him immediately." According to Jack, Garner's appeal wasn't created by movie studios or carefully built by publicity people. It was natural. "What you saw on screen was what you got in real life," Jack explained. There was no act with him. Even though Jack often played tough criminals and dangerous bad guys, he admired Garner's ability to seem decent without looking weak. "That's harder than playing a villain," Jack admitted. "Anyone can frown and make threats, but Jimmy made kindness look strong, and that takes real confidence." Jack pointed out that Garner never used ego or intimidation to show his importance on set. He didn't have to throw his weight around. People listened because they wanted to, not because they were afraid. Jack also talked about rumors of tension between character actors and leading men during Hollywood's golden years and changing times. While competition was unavoidable, Jack rejected the idea that jealousy defined how he saw Garner. "I knew my place and Jimmy knew his," Jack said plainly. "We weren't running the same race. He carried the story and I helped give it teeth." He felt proud thinking that strong villains made heroes more memorable. "If the bad guy isn't believable, the hero doesn't shine," he explained. What impressed Jack most, however, was Garner's quiet integrity, especially in how he treated other people. He remembered names, Jack recalled. Crew members, extras, people who usually get overlooked. That tells you everything you need to know about a man. Jack compared this behavior with the insecurity he saw in other stars. Some actors need to remind you they're important. Jimmy never did. As he thought about Garner's career, Jack praised his ability to do many different things, pointing out Garner's easy switches between television and film. "Most guys get stuck in one lane," Jack said. Jimmy made it look natural, whether he was cracking jokes or standing his ground. Jack believed Garner's success lasted because audiences felt his authenticity. People trust what feels real. Jimmy was real. In his final thoughts, Jack dismissed any remaining myths of rivalry and offered a simple, heartfelt opinion. "I respected James Garner," he said, "not because he was a star, but because he was a professional and a decent human being. Hollywood could use more of that." Coming from a man known for playing some of cinema's most scary characters, the praise meant a lot. Jack Elam's long silence, once thought to mean distance or not caring, finally revealed something deeper. Admiration expressed not through headlines, but through time. And when he finally spoke, his words painted a picture of James Garner not just as a beloved icon, but as a man who earned respect quietly, both on screen and off. On October 20th, 2003, the long and legendary life of Jack Elam came quietly to an end when he died of congestive heart failure at his home in Ashland, Oregon, at the age of 82. This date marked not only the passing of a man, but the closing of a unique chapter in American film and television history. One shaped by a face audiences never forgot, a career that lasted more than 40 years, and a personality that was as sharp and unpredictable as many of the characters he played. Jack's death wasn't sudden or dramatic, but rather showed the gradual physical decline that often comes with very old age. Congestive heart failure is a condition where the heart can't pump blood efficiently anymore. It's common in elderly patients and often signals the end result of years of strain on the body. For Jack, who had lived a full and demanding life, both on screen and off, the illness represented a final slowing down after decades of constant movement. In his later years, he had mostly stepped away from public life, choosing peace and privacy instead of continued exposure to Hollywood spotlight. The place where he died, Ashland, Oregon, was meaningful. Far away from the noise and constant change of Los Angeles, Ashland offered a quieter, more peaceful environment. It's known for its natural beauty and artistic community. It was a perfect place for Jack's final years, suggesting he was a man who had made peace with his past and didn't feel the need to chase roles or recognition anymore. Having spent most of his life playing outlaws, gunmen, and morally unclear characters, Jack's real-life ending was calm, at home, and peaceful. This highlighted the difference between the man himself and the men he so memorably played.